Let's get more now from two congressmen who were at that field practicing when the shooting started. Jack Bergman is a retired Marine Corps Lieutenant General, congressman from Michigan. Brad Wenstrup is a doctor and a veteran of the Iraq War, congressman from Ohio. First, gentlemen, let me say how glad I am to see both of you here tonight. And let me begin with that, Congressman. How are you? I assume the shock is beginning to wear off and you realize what you were through.
Well, you know, we're all here by the grace of God. And I think a hand played in today, because you look at the potential scenarios and outcomes, could have been a lot different if the Capitol Police hadn't done what they did.
Congressman Wenstrup.
Well, the situation's surreal in many ways. I've been in that type of environment before, and you just let your instincts kick in and go to work. But what other people need to know, especially people who have never been in that environment, they have to know what normal is. And afterwards is when it starts to kick in, and you start thinking about your family and what maybe could have happened today. And they just need to be prepared for that.
Congressman Wenstrup, you were a combat surgeon in Iraq. You've been in these kinds of situations before. How intense was what people are now calling a combat zone, a firefight?
Oh, it was very intense, especially from the standpoint that we didn't have weapons, and from the standpoint that you don't have infantry and other troops around you that can take action. But we did have two very excellent Capitol Hill police that did an outstanding job and got injured in the process, but they carried out their mission.
Congressman Bergman, did you think at any point in this that this might be it for you and for all of your colleagues?
Absolutely. When we were in the dugout after scrambling around beforehand, my only thought was if he breaks through the Capitol Police and comes around that corner into that dugout, we were all sitting ducks.
Yeah, I mean, let's just explain the scene. You were on the field, you crawled off the field, you went behind the dugout, then you went in, which was slightly below the ground, but you were all unprotected. So if he had been able to get there, you were all just lined up. You were just sitting ducks, as you say.
We were looking for anything that we could pick up if he came around the corner to engage him.
Congressman Wenstrup, tough question.
Yeah.
Did you, at any point in this, did you think to yourself, this may be it? We could die here?
I really wasn't thinking about that. It was much more about how we're going to get through this. And he was very calculated. He used the third base dugout as protection. He used another building as protection. And he was calculated, and he was herding us into one spot. And without the Capitol Hill Police there to fight back, I don't even want to think about how that might have been.
When you say he was herding you into one spot, explain that, because I've not heard that before.
Well, there was only one entrance into the park, and once you're in that park and on the field, you're inside of a fence. And the only way out is through this one entrance by the first base dugout. And so he starts down on the left field line along third base and starts shooting. So where do people run? We run towards the exit, we run towards the dugout.
Right.
And you try to take cover. And then he starts maneuvering closer to that spot. And then even comes around from behind home plate. And that's what led to his demise.
Now, would you explain that?
Because the Capitol Hill Police were in that position, and they were positioned to where they could fire back.
Where were they? I mean, you were all in the dugout. You're on the field, you're in the dugout. Where were the police before the shooting started?
They are outside that exit that we described that's on the first base line and by the dugout. That's where they're positioned. And when this started happening, you know, they get out behind their car and start to position. So he was coming closer. We had people that were taking cover behind trees and then trying to move behind hardened facilities. They had to move because he was moving, and they weren't safe just in one spot behind the tree.
When did you hear, and how grateful were you, Congressman Bergman, when you started to hear the Capitol Police joining this fight?
Extremely grateful, because they were our last, really, form of defense that we had at that point.
Congressman Wenstrup, as soon as the shooting stopped, you rushed out on the field to your colleague Steve Scalise, who had been hit. He's through surgery. He apparently is in critical condition, according to the hospital. As somebody who was there, a doctor tending to his wounds, how badly hit was he?
Well, you can't really tell, because I found the entry wound. I was able to go in and open things up to where I could see where he was hit.
Which is where?
Which was on his left hip, on the side, and I could not see an exit wound. So what that's telling me is I don't know where that actually trajected. Was it lodged in his hip? Did it move further up? Did it hit internal organs? Did it hit large vessels? So although you got the bleeding controlled, which we were able to do with tourniquet, etc., in that spot, you don't know what other damage is taking place inside. That was my concern. I kept talking to him. He answered my questions. We got him fluids as best we could because I knew he's losing some fluid inside there. And as soon as he could get some help, get an IV, then I was off to the hospital.
Congressman Bergman, there have been a lot of calls today for unity on Capitol Hill, for dialing down the partisan rhetoric. Obviously, there's a kind of a kumbaya moment right now on the Hill, but do you think it can last? Do you think this can change the way folks do business on Capitol Hill and in all of Washington, including us and the media?
I think it has to change. In fact, one of the stories that would have been a really nice story about 4 months ago was how the freshman class, both Democrats and Republicans, signed a letter of commitment to civility because we didn't like what we were seeing. We're new. We're freshmen. Never got any traction because it wasn't a big deal. Well, I guess I'll tell you what, it's a big deal. Everybody's got skin in the game now. If they don't realize it, have them come talk to some of us.
Same question for you, Congressman Wenstrup. You know, we see these crises. We've seen it all too often before. Not here. This hits home. This hits you guys directly in a way that most of them don't, except for Gabby Giffords. But do you think this maybe changes the division, the partisan, ugly gridlock here in Washington?
You know, I certainly hope so. Just a week or so ago, I actually wrote a piece that I entitled, "United We Stand, Divided We Fall." We have been tearing each other apart in far too many ways, whether it's members of Congress, whether it's the media, whether it's individuals just out there in their communities. And I think that we should be celebrating the fact that we live in a country where the people get to decide who their elected officials are. We should be grateful for that. You don't always get the one you voted for. And that shouldn't turn into anger, but it should turn into being part of the debate and part of the policy discussion and not violence.
Now, the baseball game is on for tomorrow night. Congressman, you going to be there?
Absolutely. In uniform, ready to go.
What position do you play, sir?
Well, I'm infield. I'm a freshman, so I'm one of the backups right now. So, but the point is, I came to play, I came to win, and I came to have fun with folks, all the folks in uniform. In fact, the freshmen, Dems and the Republicans, but even before this happened, we're going to get our photo made tomorrow before the game in a show of freshman unity.
Both parties together.
Absolutely.
And Congressman Wenstrup, you're going to be there tomorrow?
Absolutely. You can't keep me from it now.
Gentlemen, thank you. Thanks for telling us your story. Thanks for your bravery. Thanks for your service to the nation. And maybe out of this tragedy, something good can come. We all hope so.
We hope so.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you.